Hello, you're listening to Overwhelm is Optional. So this is a really special episode. I'm so excited today. This is my first ever podcast interview, and we have Emily Hughes from Parent Guide to GCSE with us today. And she has so much to share with you about overwhelm, particularly for parents who are dealing with those extraordinarily overwhelming GCSE years. So we're really, really excited to have her here today. Just a little bit about Emily. Emily spent 15 years as a maths teacher, head of department and a lead practitioner. So she's incredibly knowledgeable and experienced. She's got a degree in maths with education from Cambridge, but she doesn't like to tell people this in case they think she's posh. She's not posh, she's very grounded, but as you can see, she knows a lot of useful stuff. Emily's other jobs have included choir director, sensei, maths tutor, and shelf stacking ninja at our price. Emily is currently 1 to 2 cats away from being a crazy cat lady. And she is almost, but not quite, at the point where she can quote every episode of Friends verbatim. Welcome, Emily. It's just so nice to have you here. It's a really, really important day for you. Huge congratulations. Your first book is out.
Yep.
And I'm so excited for you. Woohoo!
Woo! It's been a crazy journey, but yeah, it's very exciting times. So fingers crossed that everybody loves it as much as I hope they will. The early feedback has been really, really good. So I'm hoping that this is a way to help an awful lot of parents who are feeling really stressed about GCSEs and things, because let's face it, your 5 minutes with each teacher at parents' evening tends not to cover anything in great detail. And it's been a while since most of us did GCSEs, and they're a little bit different now. And so even having been a teacher for 15 years, when my kids were doing their GCSEs, there was still so much that I found new and different and weird because it wasn't my subject and I didn't know enough about it. So I thought it would be a really good idea to pull all those things together in one handy reference guide for parents. So it's very deliberately sort of handbook-ish almost. So it's not overwhelming because it's very important, as you know. And nice kind of bite-sized chunks to take you through the whole of the journey from the beginning all the way through to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful that you sent me a review copy because, well, firstly, just to say we haven't actually ever met. This is because of the current lockdown in the UK, but we have chatted on the phone as teachers who have been on similar journeys with overwhelm and mental health issues possibly caused by some of the stressful ways the education is set up at the moment. And I was so grateful to receive a review copy of this book. I don't really need this book because I no longer teach. My kids are grown up. Most of my friends, that I'm not in that position. But wow, this book literally knocked me over. I was so impressed. I was actually envious because, as you know, I'm in the middle of trying to I am writing my own book. And this book is so useful. You've really pulled something off here. So one of the things, well, there's many things I like about it. First of all, it's so useful. And, if you're going to take the time to buy and read a book, it needs to do what it says on the tin. And this does that, but it actually does much more. And I think what's really, really, really clever about it is as somebody who's had a similar journey to you and as somebody who was also involved with teaching teachers, so that real pedagogy and how children learn and all of the mindset and, so I was very, very involved in that. And for me, what I love is you've managed to sneak some really, really cool, useful stuff, like all the best bits of, there was this wonderful revolution going on in teaching over the last decade with conferences such as Research Ed, where teachers were starting to use evidence-based practice. But it was quite very overwhelming for a lot of teachers to be able to access this while there were all these changes in GCSE and the stresses of the strains of normal life and the job. So what I absolutely love about this is, if I was still a maths teacher And I keep imagining myself just as a teacher, forget the helping run a department or teaching teachers. But if we just start with, if I was just as a maths teacher, I'm imagining year 11 parents, actually year 9 and 10 and 11 parents, asking questions at parents' evening. And I would have wanted to say, wow, I can teach you this about the teenage brain, or how to, get them studying in an effective way rather than highlighting everything, which used to drive me mad. This is how they learn. I'd be desperate to share that, but in the 5 minutes of parents' evening, I wouldn't have time. If I was in that position now, I would just be saying, buy this book, buy this book, buy this book. But I was also in a very privileged position where I was helping run a department, and I would be looking for exactly this. Every year it was like, here comes the parents' evening. How can we most support parents and teachers, so teachers don't have to repeat themselves and parents want the answer to that question? What is the fastest way for me to get the information I need to support my child? Buy this book, buy this book. Seriously, I'm so excited about this book. You wrote the book I should have written, and you have pulled it off so well. I would be, if I was, in contact with lots of senior management, I would be saying, just get this book in your school. It will raise your results. It will reduce stress of teachers, department heads, your stress. It needs to be read. I'm absolutely passionate about this, and I'm nothing to do with maths education or school education anymore. As you know, I've moved into a very different sector. But this book does it. And what I really like is, not only has it got all the stuff I would want to put in about mindset, how children learn, the teenage brain, how to study, just so helpful. What's really cool about it is you've written it as a parent. So you're writing it parent to parent, and it feels when you're writing it like you're just sitting down having a coffee with a mate who's going, yeah, I've got some insider knowledge here. You don't need to do that. Just do this one thing. It's like, if there was any way to cut through overwhelm, this is it. I mean, seriously, well done. And so one of my reasons, having you on the podcast is just a joy anyway, because your journey, which you're about to share with us, I really hope, about overwhelm, is it's like sitting with you, having a chat, and you're just saying, I was going to say something good. I've forgotten. It doesn't matter. I'm just overexcited. We'll come back. I'm so glad
it's not just me.
Yeah, no, I was just getting super excited then. Never mind. We'll edit that bit out. Right, so please tell me, if you'd really like to share some of your journey now. I'm really would like to know how you felt when you were at your most overwhelmed as a teacher, and some of what happened, and then where you are now, because now you are this bright, shiny person who's clearly not an overwhelm, and it's such a joy. So yeah, tell us a bit about your adventures with overwhelm.
Well, where to start? So 2012, I think, I was offered a job which I really didn't think I was going to get. I'd gone from being a key stage coordinator. So basically it goes classroom teacher, key stage coordinator, probably key stage 3 first. They let you be in charge of the younger ones, and then key stage 4 and so on. Then you've got head of department sort of level. And I'd been a key stage coordinator for a year or so, nothing too long. I went for this job as a head of department, just thinking, why not? Let's give it a whirl. And the interview was on my birthday. So I remember we'd gone out for a birthday dinner to celebrate. And I got the phone call while we were there to say, yeah, I'd like to offer you the job. And just mind blown. So I took on this job at a school that was requires improvement. So it probably isn't anymore. It was the roughest school in the city. It was put together with my old school, actually, and another school that was, again, not doing especially well. And they decided in their wisdom to combine the two schools that hated each other and create this new big school. And it never really worked. So it was a very challenging place to be. But, I went in and did some great things with the department. We were turning everything around. We were building an actual team. A colleague who used to be my form tutor when I was at school still worked there, and helpfully told me after I'd got the job that my maths corridor was affectionately known as Beirut by the rest of the school. that's the sort of thing I went into. But I loved it. I loved every second of it. And my head of my line manager was the head, and she was an ex-maths teacher, so she got it, and she nurtured me, and she made me feel like I could do it. And I mean, a month or two after I started, Ofsted arrived and put us in special measures. So we got, constant inspections as a brand new head of department, totally green, line managing 2 people who had taught me maths when I was at school. So it was super weird. And then she was pushed out, and my line manager changed. And my new line manager was not quite so nurturing, and everything just started to get a little bit more overwhelming because I didn't feel as supported, which meant that when all the stuff happened and I was busy trying to deal with it, it just wasn't quite perceived in the same way it felt. And it gradually got to the point where I'd been turned down for a couple of training opportunities that I wanted to take, and was put on a different alternative path to do a bit of training that involved traveling 45 minutes a day and things. And my department was, because I was seconded on this, my department was under the care of somebody else part-time, and it was not working out. The department were miserable. I was miserable. I was asking to just leave the secondment and go back and fix my department because it just wasn't working out, and we were all hating it. And I was literally driving to and from this place every 45 minutes every day, crying because I was just so miserable. And I was told, no, you've got to give this a whirl. You've got to, give this the good old college try. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Toughen up, push the tears down, keep going.
Yeah, basically. And then it was Christmas. And so teachers, if there are any teachers listening, or if any teachers, for the 2 days maybe before you go back after the holidays, you start getting the nightmares. And the nightmares are, you've turned up to school and you're suddenly in charge of a field trip, and there's 150 kids and half of them have gone missing, and then a shark attacks or something. It gets silly. Or you've suddenly been asked to teach Swahili or something. Yeah. I was getting those from the beginning of the Christmas holidays. And I was still miserable, kind of, a shell of my former self, I guess, and was talking to my husband about it. And he said, look, if you're feeling like this, you need a bit of time. You need to process. Just don't go back. Let's take a week off. Just get your head straight, because you are not okay right now.
Sounds like a pretty amazing husband.
He is fantastic. Honestly, could not ask for more. But I've been saying nice things about him all week, and he's starting to get a big head, so I'm not going to
so we won't say any more then.
No. But I took the week off, and it didn't make a difference. I think because I'd stopped trying to cope, my brain went, oh, thank goodness we've stopped trying to cope, and just went,
yeah.
And that was it. So I ended up signed off with stress to begin with, eventually then officially depression, because I broke. I literally I think my biggest achievement of the day was that I'd get up to walk my child to school, because she wasn't old enough to do it herself. I'd walk her to school, and then I'd pick her up. That was it. The rest of the day I would literally just be sat on the sofa. And it wasn't a kind of like lazy sat on the sofa. I'd put the TV on, and then it'd get to the end of the program and it wouldn't be doing anything, but I couldn't even move my arm far enough to reach the remote, which was, within reach, because it was like, I think the best way I can think of to describe the feeling is it's like Novocaine for the soul, which was an old Eels song, which I love, but it's just like you're completely numb inside. And there are no emotions. Like I wasn't bored enough to reach for the remote. I didn't care enough to reach for the remote. I could be sad when sad stuff happened on TV, but I couldn't be happy. Happy wasn't something that I did anymore. And I could kind of fake it when I needed to, as I'd started to get a little bit better. it took antidepressants because I needed that little bit of support to just rewrite the chemicals in my brain. And as I was starting to get better, I was getting better at kind of, faking interest in Paul's stories, my daughter's stories, because I was still numb inside. So I couldn't be excited about it because I didn't have any feelings. That wasn't how it worked. And I was very socially anxious. So, and part of that was being signed off. So you get this feeling like if you see someone, they're going to think that you're faking because it's a mental illness, not a physical one. If I was on crutches, it would be really obvious why I wasn't at school. But if I was just pottering down to the shops to get some milk, well, then why can't you do your job? Well, actually, because I'm not physically or mentally capable of doing my job right now. That's why I'm not in school. But
yeah, that's a really good highlight of the problems, isn't it? Why we push ourselves, surfing that verge of breakdown really expertly and secretly for years, actually. And when we finally stop, we've done a lot of damage, and that damage takes time. And
it does. It takes a lot of time to heal.
Yeah.
And we got to the point where I decided that it wasn't going to do me any good to go back, so I resigned from that school. I did a little bit of just teaching in a different school for half a term, just to kind of reassure myself that I could, really. And I got myself a job. That was fine. I was fine being back in the classroom because that was like riding a bike. When you've been doing it for that long, it's almost autopilot, and so that was okay. It was almost easier not to be feeling the stress levels that I would have normally been feeling in the classroom. But then I got a job as a lead practitioner, and I was working in a department with some awesome people, but with not the best manager. And so there was a lot of stress, and there was a lot of negativity and a lot of complaining because, nothing I did was good enough, or if it was good enough and was undeniably good enough, it was taken credit for by somebody else. And I could feel myself starting to wobble again. Yeah. Because you can start to feel the feelings and what's coming. And I thought, I'm not doing this again. I can't do this to my family. I can't do this to me. So I quit without a job to go to. I tried all the usual things, and I talked to the people and said, this is what's happening. And they'd gone, well, there's not a lot we can do about that.
Yeah.
So I left. Did odds and ends of maths teaching elsewhere. Never really, I'd fallen out of love with the job. And to be a teacher, you got to love it.
You've got to love it.
You love it. You don't. It's not something you do for the money. You do it because you love it.
Do you remember the point? Do you remember that point? Because I have a really. There are several points really when I've fallen out of love with the job. But I remember a day when I think it was quite a young class. I think it was year 7s, and they were being so incredibly rude to me because it was such an appallingly managed school where which I think is quite, I think it's surprisingly common in schools actually, where the idea is that the well-being and the needs of the students are far more important than your own personal health and well-being. I don't think this is quite understood, the sacrifice that's supposed to happen because you have holidays and because it's a vocation. And I remember that day very clearly where something shifted inside of me and I no longer cared. And for me not to care as a passionate, very deeply big-hearted person, but as a teacher who felt, I felt like I was born to teach. I was very, very good at it. And that moment where those year 7s were so incredibly rude to me that I thought, you don't deserve to have me as your teacher. You don't deserve actually to have an education. Which I don't really believe, but that was a real.
Yeah, but you feel it. It's the same as when your kids are driving you nuts, and you kind of just wish that you could just have a week off from being a parent. It doesn't mean you don't love them.
No,
it's just that's how you feel at that time.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to be a teacher, like always. It was either teacher or sing in the West End. Those were my choices always. And hence the choir director job. I love it. but my secondary school, we finished at 1 on a Friday for enrichment time, and I used to go back to my primary school and help out with the little ones. I loved it. That's a large part of the reason why I managed to get into Cambridge. I had so much experience helping to teach. As a sixth former, I was helping to TA in year 8 dance lessons and things. So I'd always seen myself as a teacher, always. And I think for me, it was after I'd quit that job without anywhere else to go, and started just doing some maths teaching. I think from the moment I started that new just maths teaching again, I knew that my heart wasn't in it anymore. I started as part of when I was doing the lead practitioner stuff, I designed some posters for my classroom, and everyone else had said, "Oh, what lovely posters! Can I have one of those?"
Oh, I remember
the idea.
Can I have those? Can I have those? Yeah.
So in the end, I'd gone, do you know what? I'll take a look at this. Mum and Dad had been trying to figure out how to get me out of teaching because, I needed to get out of teaching. Yeah. And Mum had cut out this article from the paper about a woman who'd done Fulfilled by Amazon. So she does a range of something like vitamins or something, but she said she has this amazing business that brings in loads of income, and she can just go off on holiday and still run it from there because she orders the things, they go to the Amazon warehouse, Amazon do all the distribution.
Genius.
Yeah. And I went, ooh, I could do that. So I have a range of posters that I'd put on Amazon, and it was bringing in some pocket money, but it wasn't anything that was going to replace my income. And my sister, then she started the original choir that I'm a director of a kind of subsidiary group of. And she said, well, why don't you do your own choir bit here? It makes me a decent amount of money. You can then supplement your income. And we decided that the phrase that I use is my sanity was more important than my salary. So we decided that I was going to gradually step down, and I went down to like 3 days a week and then finally quit. We've tried various businessy things until just over a year ago, I had an epiphany. So our daughter was in year five, and there's a Facebook group for the mums. And one of the mums was clearly getting overwhelmed about her daughter's homework. And it was, how on earth do I do this bar modelling homework? She'd put,
I know that question.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And suddenly a light bulb went off, like, well, I know this stuff and I can make this parent friendly. I could do that for GCSEs. I've got the experience. My husband has been a teacher for just as long as I have. We can do this. And we set up the parent guide to GCSE because parents, I don't think people realise, not even including the time they're asleep, 50% of their learning time is at home. And that's a massive amount of difference that can be made. But as schools don't have a lot of success pulling in parents and getting them engaged for various reasons. Sometimes parents weren't very engaged with schools themselves. Sometimes it's just a complete lack of funding and time because schools don't have either of those things. And
but it makes a difference, doesn't it? You get the parents who want to help.
Yeah.
I just remember that rare occasion where I'd get this parent who really wanted to help, and I'd almost be really surprised because a lot of parents were so overwhelmed with, because what we forget as parents is that our life is running alongside our child. So, I think often teachers think parents ought to do more, but it's not that easy. So you need a way to cut through that overwhelm. If you have parents who genuinely want to help, make it really easy, make it really clear. Yeah.
Because you don't know what to do. It's not obvious.
No.
There is no one, because I did my research and I couldn't believe that this was actually true, but there's no one who exclusively supports parents.
Really?
Couldn't find anyone. So it might be that there are people who just aren't marketing it very well. I don't know. But there are lots of people who do tutoring and support kids. It's £1 million industry supporting kids through revision.
Tutoring's expensive, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to get your child tutoring,
easily 25, 30 quid an hour. Exactly. More than that if you're in London. It's crazy.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But please tell us what you do in Parent Guide to GCSE, because what I'm really loving about this is, first of all, you are so right. There is a huge gap which you have now filled. And secondly, what's really exciting for me is that you've been on this difficult journey, this adventure with Overwhelm. You've had some really painful rock bottom times, but you are still pulling together all of it. So not only are you pulling together your incredible knowledge and experience as a teacher, the MA in education, and all of your different roles and your experiences with difficult and good managers and teaching teachers and etc. and supporting others. Not only are you pulling together all of your professional experience, but you're also pulling in your personal experience of Overwhelm, how to make it easier as a parent, and also your experience of, I believe you've got twins and a younger daughter. So what I love is you've and also you experimented with other ways to earn money, and you knew what you wanted in order to keep yourself well and not overwhelmed. And so you've brought your passion back. So you've gone from a time where you lost it, and now you are clearly so excited about this. So please tell us, what does Parent Guide GCSE do? How can it help? Because I know it's a lot cheaper than tutoring.
Well, yeah. And basically, we take everything you need to know as a parent and break it down into bite-sized chunks and literally just deliver it to you each week. So think of it as a subscription box with just that little bit of information. If you know this week and do this one thing this week, it will make a difference. And we just do that via email all the way through the year. We're actually changing it up slightly for next year and recording them as videos as well. So you can choose whether you'd rather just watch the 2, 3, 4 minute video or read the email, just to get that little kind of information chunk into your brain for that week, because we don't have time to be researching everything on the internet and figuring out which bits are right and which bits are wrong, because there's a lot of rubbish advice out there.
Google the rabbit hole. You do not want to go down it.
Totally. So yeah, basically it's a membership for parents, so that we will essentially hold your hand through the whole process, and you don't have to do any of it on your own. You'll be able to ask questions when there's something that you don't know about. You won't be taken by surprise by anything, deadline wise or anything, because you'll know what to be looking out for. You'll know what questions to ask. And the biggest thing that parents tell us makes the difference is that, you might remember from when you have teenagers that teenagers don't like to listen to their parents.
No.
Really? I tell the story of Mum told me that I should read the Harry Potter books because I would love them. So I did not read the Harry Potter books for like 2 years because I didn't want her to be right. And parents really struggle a lot of the time to have these conversations with their kids without it just turning into this defensive and then argument nag session.
Absolutely.
When it's an email that is by an expert delivered to you and you sit down and you read the email together, it's not Mum thinking she knows everything. It's, here is the advice we have been given, this is what we're going to do. And it's made those conversations so much easier and just opened up those lines of communication.
That's huge. That is enormous, because nobody has a baby thinking, I want to grow up, I want this child to grow up and I'm just going to nag them. We all want to do things better than we remember. And yet it's so easy to get stuck in the nag. You don't mean to nag. Sometimes I remember just like, it's almost like saying hello almost became a nag. And it's horrible because you love your kids, but they're going through this huge change, which I love the way you very simply describe some of the issues with why this happens without overloading us with science we don't need. That's what I love about your book, is that it's only telling you the bits you really need to know. And that's just so true, isn't it? You want the lines of communication open. And these issues are so fundamental and so tricky. So I love that. So it's just literally, God, that's really short. So it's just one email or one tiny video.
Yeah, basically. We have a bunch of stuff on the website, so you can go there for all the information that you need and you want. We're introducing a new thing when we relaunch in August for this academic year, because we only open up the membership program at the sort of end of August.
Oh, really? So you can't just join when you want?
No, I think there's going to be an awful lot of demand.
this year.
given the current circumstances. And we don't want to be having to juggle trying to catch people up and trying to, deal with launches mid-year. We want to be able to give all of our focus to helping parents, because that's our whole mission.
That's your passion. That really comes through, that wanting to help. I mean, I have a membership and I'm the same. That kind of, I can't have, it's really hard when somebody says, I really would like to join the membership, or this membership would be good, but actually you can't have people just coming in dribs and drabs. Not for me anyway, and it sounds like similar to you. I want to really help, so I need a kind of a group. It's almost like going back to the classroom. It's like I had a group that you get in September, and you nurture them and you get to know them, and you help as much as you can. So I love that. So sorry, please tell us a bit more. Interrupted you there. I'm sure there's people who are going to want to know how to join and what else is in it. And, I know you've got some exciting plans for September, so please do share.
We do. So, this August we're launching Parent Guide to GCSE for anyone doing GCSEs. So there are still some kids that start in year 9, but mostly it's year 10 and 11. And then we're launching Parent Guide to Post 16 as well for students that are about to start year 12. So Paul was a sixth form tutor for most of his teaching career, so he is a pro at this stuff.
You're pulling in his expertise as well, like your style.
Absolutely. So we will be launching both of those, I believe, on the 18th of August this year. We'll just open up the doors for a few days, and then we're busy building the most epic membership that we can possibly manage. We were talking. We're planning on doing a sort of fortnightly Q&A drop-in session as well, via something like a Facebook group, so parents can literally just rock up and go, as if it's parents' evening, I need to know about this, can you tell me about it? And that's what we'll do. So it's very much like having a little teacher in your pocket.
But one who's a mum.
Yes. Because that's the thing, like the academic advice is one thing, but actually doing it with your own kids, actually getting past that need to nag almost, the whole, are you sure you should be on your Xbox? Have you done enough homework? Getting past all of that stuff with your own kids is much more difficult than when you're nagging a class full of kids, have they done their homework? So it's just helping parents to avoid that level of overwhelm. I mean, one of my favourite testimonials from the last year was Denise and Amy. So Denise is mum. She bought into the programme because she wanted to be able to help support Amy through year 11. And she talks about how much it's helped to be able to sit down and have the conversation with her every week over the email. But then Amy wrote her own little testimonial and basically said, look, when mum first bought this, I was sat there thinking, really? Do you have to stick your nose in here? I've got this sussed. I have a plan. I'm all good, thanks. She said, but I'm so glad she did. It's really made a difference. There have been things that have been suggested that I hadn't thought of trying that have really helped. And just that point of view from both mother and daughter has been.
I can't believe you got a testimonial out of a teenager.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so that's just been really nice. And I know with all the COVID shenanigans,
what a year for parents.
I know, but the parents who started early with us last September knew to do little and often and to start early and be preparing, which means their kids have been showing their teachers all year long that they're putting in the work and they've been steadily improving, which means they're less worried about their centre assessed grades by teachers than the parents whose kids had probably just turned it around, having been scared by mocks, because that's what normally happens. They do their mocks. They realise
much more of a roller coaster, isn't it? Of huge efforts, then no effort, huge effort, no effort, and we as teachers, we know types of students, the lazy boys who don't do anything to the last minute are really going to suffer with those grades. That's a really tricky one. I was talking to my own children who are 28 and 30, so it's a long way away, and talking about what they would have done, what we would have done this year to help them, and it would have been very different for both of them. And yet they're both very smart mathematicians, and yet they would have come out with not necessarily the right grade. And I just think, yes, having that steadiness throughout the year, rather than it building up into a crisis is the key. And it's what we tell students, it's what the best teachers know. But actually, kids are going through so many lessons in the day and getting so much advice, and it's too much. Kids are, in general, I would say most kids are pretty overwhelmed by school. It's exhausting, and it suddenly ramps up, particularly in September of year 10. There's a big ramp up to it suddenly becomes very urgent, and it feels like an emergency. And for some children, I'm talking about possibly girls who are very conscientious, can suddenly start to show signs of anxiety because they are listening to all of it and trying to remember all of it and do all of it, and it's too much for them. And then at the opposite end, you've got the kids who don't seem to care, and yet they'll reach a lurching point at some point. And to just iron out between those two extremes by having a steady guidance throughout those years is, I think what you're doing is a real gift. And I'm personally grateful, because my mission is to get people out of overwhelm, because it's such a waste. And I've worked with teenagers, and now I'm not doing that. Now I work with primarily women who are secretly and expertly surfing this verge of breakdown that we both know so well. And for me, knowing that I could recommend somewhere that would support them with this very specific short period of their life, but huge period for their children's life, I just think what you're doing is really, really important. So I'm really grateful that you're doing it. I wish you huge success. Huge success. I would just like to literally give a book to every parent right now and just say, just read a little bit of it. Even a little bit of it is going to change your life, I mean, one of my favorite bits is this 10 things I hate about overwhelm. Can you tell us a bit about, I love the little quote you've got before that. Could you just kind of talk about that? Because I love this humor that you've interjected and made the book so light.
It is so 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a film that I love, based on The Taming of the Shrew. And there's two slightly ditzy girls wandering along chatting, and one turns to the other and she says, I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed. Can you ever just be whelmed? And the first girl turns back and goes, I think you can in Europe.
I love that.
Just so, as I say in the book, what we're aiming for with revision is whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed. So just little and often. We've built this revision plan generator, which you can do in like literally 5 minutes. Put in your subjects, put in your term dates, press go. It will generate you a printable plan for the whole year. It's like, today
is that
you're
part
going to do
of the membership?
English. There's a free version which does the basic stuff.
There's a free version.
Yep. So you have to sign up for a free membership, because it remembers your details and saves it all, so you can come back and edit it later in the year if you want to, or anything. But for members, they get access to the full featured thing, which means you can add blocks at the weekends, and you can prioritize different subjects, so it gives them different weighting if there's something that you particularly want a bit more time on.
Oh, I'm so loving this. Sorry, I'm just getting flashbacks to being a year 11 tutor, which I was 3 years in a row, and that trying to get them to do a revision timetable and the actual colouring in.
Yes, and the highlighters.
Oh my god,
the word highlighters. Yeah,
hours wasted possible time.
5 minutes.
Love
5
it.
minutes and press go. Super easy.
Oh man, you put some good stuff in this.
We started launching last September with the how to write a revision plan, but actually it turned into how to write a revision plan using the slightly iffy tools that currently exist, and being very careful what buttons you press in case it wipes out your progress and you have to start again. And it got painful and long, and we looked at each other and said, do you know what, we can do better than this. So we got our very lovely web guy to create us a revision plan generator, and the rest is history. But it's magic. It is. I think it's literally magic. You press buttons.
Please tell listeners how to get their hands on at least the free revision thing, if not how to join your membership or the book, or just to give us all your goodies. Tell us.
Well, so parent guide to gcse.com, and there is a link at the top, so you can go to our podcast, or you can go to our blog, or you can look at the various resources that we've got. But on the top in the menu, it says revision planner, and that is what you want. Click on that, and then you just sign up. All we need is your name and email address. It's nothing fancy, and you can get it done in literally 5 minutes. You can be holding, depending on how quick your printer is, I suppose, you could be holding a plan in your hands for the whole of the rest of the year.
Wow.
For them to then work their way through. There's space for them to tick bits off as they've done it, because that helps with the overwhelm, just being able to count it off. And my favourite bit is that it adds up the number of blocks that you have done for each subject by the end, or you will have done by the end, and has a little summary at the end. So you can say, well, I'll have done 33 blocks for science, and I'll have done 100 blocks for maths.
Oh, I love this.
Right. So if you're doing half-hour blocks, you can look at that and go, well, 100 blocks for maths, that means I've done 50 hours of revision by the end of the year. That's pretty cool, considering I'm just doing a half an hour a day kind of. So yeah, it's a nice way to reduce the levels of overwhelm.
Absolutely.
But yeah, parent guide to gcse.com for the GCSE membership, and you just click sign up or membership plans.
You can't sign up yet though. So is there a waiting list? Or?
There is a waiting list, yeah. So what we will probably do is the same as we did last time. If you're on the waiting list, you will probably get 24 hours access before anybody else does, which means first dibs.
Yeah.
So it means you stand a much better chance of getting through the doors if we do suddenly fill up, because we do have a limited number of spaces. We want to make sure that we can support everyone that's a member, which means we can't just invite the entire world. And given that it's $29.99 a month, which is kind of one tutoring session's worth of cost, or a couple of two fancy coffees a week, I think, 2 Starbucks a week, $29.99 a month for all of this stuff. I think it's going to fill up really fast. So yeah, get yourself on the waiting list, just clicking sign up on parent guide to gcse.com.
Can we put a link in the show notes to that?
Yes, we can. There's also parent guide to post16.com.
Oh yeah, the news.
And you can do the same thing there. Same thing with the waiting list.
So, sorry, can we just mention that a second, because post-16 is quite complex, particularly this year.
Yes, we'll be covering
bases, or is this just for A levels?
No, it will be A levels, BTECs, CTECs. Paul was the go-to guy for EPQs, so we'll talk about extended project qualifications as well if people are doing those. We're doing specific support packages as well for things like UCAS applications, writing your personal statement.
Oh my God, I hated that time.
Oh, I know, but it's Paul's wheelhouse. He's amazing at this stuff. So things like preparing for job interviews as well. So the and uni interviews, if you get those, all of those bits and bobs that come up through the post-16 journey.
Huge.
Those are things we're gonna cover. But it's more. We're always more about the general skills, the transferable stuff. We do specific subject-based support for GCSE, but obviously when you get to post-16 there's such a variety, and there isn't stuff that everybody does. So it's going to be a kind of general study skills kind of thing. Things like uni visits. When should you do those if you're looking at university? What even are all the different pathways? What's a degree apprenticeship? What's all this stuff? Do you know what you're working towards? Because if you know your destination,
you can get there.
You can plan a path to it. Yeah,
and it's very, very complicated. And I also think that this year in particular, I'm so glad that I'm not parenting in any of these years, but the post-16 with the whole mess up over the exams is going to be.
Well, yeah, because they won't have done any high stakes exams. Year 12 starting in September will never have done a set of high stakes exams, which means it's going to be a baptism of fire.
It's going to be an interesting time. So this is I'm glad that your husband has all of these extra skills. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're a really extraordinary pair to be doing this. It's like, this is what you should be doing, isn't it? It's so cool. So sorry, I interrupted you. So we've got the book, oh, we didn't mention where to get the book, because that actually comes out, we're recording this the day before, but the big launch is tomorrow, which will be, when this is released, the 1st of July. So where can you get that? What's the fastest way to get your hands on that book?
So the GCSE Survival Guide for Parents is available from all good bookstores, so long as they're called Amazon.
As long as they're called Amazon, right.
As long as they're called Amazon. So you can get it on Kindle, you can get the paperback, and Amazon is the way to do that. The GCSE Survival Guide for Parents. You can't miss it. It's very pink and yellow.
Very pink. You did definitely go for the pink there. I like it.
It's hot pink. It stands out. I love it. So the aim was, because we can't support everyone with the membership, I wanted to make sure that we could support as many people as possible, which means the book is sort of a light version of the membership, and it's you do it at your own pace. So rather than it being bite-sized chunks to avoid it being overwhelming, it's you get to choose that, you get to work your way through.
Although I think you're underselling it a bit there, because the book actually is very whelming. It's definitely got the whelming bit going on there, because although you're doing it at your own pace, you give really clear instructions about how to use it, and because it's written parent, it just feels easy to use. So I think it's a really good option for people who are not sure if they're ready for the membership, or they just don't want to do a membership. That's, not everybody does. To have the whole thing in your hand at once. That's how some people like to do it. And then, of course, you could decide later, as long as you don't leave it too late, because the membership's obviously not open all year. So it would be quite a good idea to get your hands on it now, I guess, because there's a lot of concern about what's going to happen in September. So getting that book, today, having a look at it, because with the best will in the world, July, August the 18th, did you say, is when the membership opens again?
Yep. Yeah.
That's going to give you about 6 weeks to really get to know whether how you talk about things resonates, whether your approach would feel appropriate before joining a waiting list for the membership and trying to get in. So yeah, it looks like you've got all bases covered there. It's a good job you wrote the book in time.
Well, I know. I'd set myself this deadline of wanting to release it on the 1st of July, and it seemed fine, because I knew that I could just get my head down and get it all written and things, and do the various bits of editing. Mum is a grammar ninja, so she's gone through and looked for any errant commas or anything. And then I've had time to get it out to people, to get reviews back, to make sure that it's all in the right order and making sense for people and stuff. What I hadn't planned on is the fact that I decided, I can't even remember how it all began, but I have a virtual assistant who is an actual legend, and she has been helping me get this book out to various celebrity mums. So I have managed to, in about the space of a week or so, although they'd had the book for a week or two before that, I managed to get Terry Dwyer of Hollyoaks and Loose Women, and she's smashing it as a producer at the moment. She's got a new film coming out called Break, which she has produced, and they're doing a drive-by premiere, because obviously you can't do a proper premiere now, so they're doing kind of like a drive-by. It sounds very cool.
Yeah.
So Terry has been kind enough to write me a foreword for the book, which is amazing. And we got a quote from Claudia Winkleman to put on the back cover, which blew my mind, because she's amazing,
so
and she has the most fabulous fringe in the whole of the land. So all of those things have just come together so fast. It's really been amazing. It's nothing short of a miracle that it's all pulled together so quickly. But yeah, it's all been, I think, when something just feels right. Yeah. It's all come together. The universe has all harmonized, and there is this thing. And yeah, got my author copies a couple of days ago, and it was quite a feeling to hold my book in my hands. That has been a little bit overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah, what I love about it is that this is like a culmination of so much for you, and listening to your adventure with Overwhelm, and for you to pour all of this into a book that is going to help so many people. I just think that's why it's all coming together. Because
I'm
you
so
are
excited
not
about it.
stuck in overwhelm anymore. You have made the choice to work your way out of it, to have the courage to say, this is not for me. I want more. I want my life back. And then to pick yourself up and take all of that passion and knowledge, pour it into something, which is so helpful for so many parents. And it will also have a knock-on effect, not just for their children, but for the teachers as well, because it takes off a pressure, and for senior leaders, and the whole education system. As you say, there's a gap, and this is there, it's needed, and this is your version, this is your way of saying it. And I love that. I love your passion, and I love, from my point of view, of this passion of wanting to get people out of overwhelm, you are such a success story, and it shows what happens when we as women say, no, this isn't enough for me. This isn't good enough. I want to be treated better. I value myself. I'm going to recover. I'm going to rebuild my life in a way that works for me. And that, I love that. So thank you so much for being here, Emily. It's been so much fun talking to you. I'm so excited for you. We are spreading the get out of overwhelm now. Yeah, get people living. Life should be so much more fun, hey?
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And it is at the moment, and I love it.
Cool.
Love it. I start each morning with, today is going to be awesome. And I've been right so far. I highly recommend it.
Love it.